And really,
Yeah.
you and I were talking about what is the future of the PBX. I mean, people don't want to have a phone on their desk necessarily. So they're building it into the applications that they use all day. And you said, hey, it's kind of cool when we rethink how the phone works.
We've all seen the numbers decline on voice calls in general and business voice calls, and and even quicker when you take out mobile calls, and you talk about the business phone, and it's still a really important tool. I think what's changed is 20 years ago it was a more important tool in businesses, and now it's less important. But I don't think most companies are about to throw away phone calling. I mean, they might say just use your mobile or something, but sort of Teams answers a question there because it's mobile. It's an application that works great on your mobile, great on your desktop. People have Teams phones too for old school. It sort of provides an answer to how do you put business telephony and control it in all these places. And then the second part of the question, Dave, is PBX. Is the PBX, what's the value of the PBX? I mean, call control is used by a lot of people. I mean, I think there's call centers and contact centers we sort of, we say are separate, but that's just advanced PBX often, it's call control. I have seen, there's a big debate about how, at what point do companies say Teams is good enough or some other PBX Lite is good enough and we don't need all the call control we had. That's happening every day slowly. I think it's going to be a really long and slow process.
I've been hearing about the death of the desk phone for, probably since mid 2000s, right? Death of the PSTN landlines. They're still out there, but because of this, the pandemic, voice calling in aggregate's actually increasing.
Interesting, makes sense. They're not next to each other anymore.
No, exactly. So the CIO getting their users to actually adopt it, use it, was a huge challenge. And I think what's happened since then is the ability to seamlessly integrate the headset with Teams or other collaboration platform.
What other things does your connector do that changes the way a worker works?
I think it's where people use the phone system. Mike was saying how, lots of people still have phones on their desk, and soft phones haven't been compelling enough for people. We've all used different soft phones over the years, and we use them, we like them, we stop using them. It's not portable. Microsoft's built something that is portable. I mean, you speak from anecdotes often because we're humans, but I work. I'm on a client here. I'm on my mobile when I'm moving. I'm on my tablet at home. It's a totally same experience. I mean, for dialing, I have the same dial pad. I have the same phone number. It's annoyingly effective at reaching me. That's my biggest complaint. Whereas soft phones are usually tied to one computer, or they're not portable enough. So they've again, to a point of overkill, they know how to find you, Microsoft Teams, and that's good if you're running a business and your employees, lets them work from home. It lets them, once people are walking through airports, it lets them walk through airports again, and salespeople stay in touch. And so I think there's been it's sort of a visceral reaction. It's hard to tap, and we always look at numbers. 75 million daily active users on Teams is a big number, but the visceral reaction of the users, like, do they like it? Are they using it more? Is it making their life better? Do they say to their husband or wife, this Teams is awesome. This is really, and I do all those things. And so I think that's what I'm really excited about. I didn't know Microsoft would do just as good of a job on what they put out. That's what's been impressive. I mean, I think it takes a big company to do what they've done. It's hard for a startup to. I mean, Slack should be Slack is super impressive what they created from scratch. Microsoft sort of followed their model in a lot of ways and has done a great job.
You think about what has Microsoft done in the telephony world, and so maybe we should start there and say, this is how they came into being a telephone service provider. Isn't that weird?
It feels like Microsoft from the beginning was excited about communication from LCS, OCS, back in the day. I think Link even before that, but they really never wanted to be a PBX company.
Right.
And their first PBX product was released, I believe it was Skype for Business Cloud PBX in late 2015, and they're adequate features, but I think they've been waiting sort of for call control and the PBX user base to stop needing a PBX as much and to migrate to what they were doing. And it hasn't happened quite like that. But communication, there's been a groundswell of different kinds of communication that are, chat, persistent chat, and video and voice calls, sort of client to client, like we're doing. And others have started to see growth in that, and Microsoft jumped on board with Skype for Business first, which had a lot of users using internal chat and internal calling. And now with Teams, they've amplified that, but they've allowed our world to participate, and they've opened up the door with a SIP channel that works, that lets you connect Microsoft Teams world to PBX PSTN world, and that's actually a big deal in our market.
So how would you describe your target? You said you sell through providers, I presume VARs, Microsoft distributors. So what's the profile look like for companies that your team's gonna work with, and what types of things should they be considering right now?
I have some ideas about how this might grow, but right now the response, the real interest is from anyone who's in the PBX ecosystem, because they have customers that use a PBX for a reason. Whether it's on-prem or cloud, it doesn't make a difference. Those same customers are using Microsoft Teams, and I don't know if it's a defensive posture that they want to have this integration, but it's a logical one. It makes them sort of, it marries them a little to Microsoft if they're not already an MSP or reselling Microsoft, which a lot of them are. So it's a step towards being an MSP or an IT services company, and it's something their customers are clamoring for and asking about. So it's a way to sell a premium seat. So what we're seeing is lots of cloud PBX companies like people who sell through resellers, people who sell direct, people who you have BroadWorks or NetSapiens or Metaswitch, or then there's the on-prem guys like Mitel and NEC and Avaya, where the on-prem equipment is fine. It's SIP. You can register a soft phone. You can just do that. So distributors of those systems see this as a great value add to make an old system worth more, make that the Mitel on-prem work more. So all of these folks in the PBX ecosystem have been the ones calling, and those are what we call resellers. I mean, we give them a portal, and they sign up their customers, and they run their business, and we're a small part of it.
I think in our past lives, you and I had a very similar distribution strategy. Ours was more really pointed at independent phone companies and
that's right,
large MSPs trying to transform. And I've been saying for 5-6 years to everybody that'll listen that if you're a PBX vendor, distributor, and you haven't begun the path to move to the cloud, and by the way, owning the client, not selling as an agent, you got to be thinking about that now, because the market is moving. It's moving faster than anybody thinks it does. And it sounds like you are bringing in a solution that makes it easy for them to do that.
It's part of it. I mean, I'm not too grandiose about it. I mean, we make a strange shaped screw that's really important to a certain connection and an important connection to a lot of things. But I mean, these guys need to think about their strategy for UC&C. They need to understand how they behave in a world where there's these big platforms they're navigating. So, I mean, they have a lot of challenges, PBX companies, and hopefully we're part of some of the solutions.
So how much of adoption is driven off of just the experience is easier?
The trick and what the problem we're solving is, so Teams, I mentioned Microsoft has built a way to connect the SIP trunk outside of Teams, but PBXs are used primarily by hosted PBX users, by registered SIP users. So the idea is whatever the experience you have today as a phone user on your desk phone, if you have a soft phone, whatever it is, our job was to replicate it inside of Teams. So what that means is that Teams user, just like a soft phone user, is registered to that PBX that they were using before. That's the threat. That was the challenge we've overcome. So SIP trunking, no problem. You can do that in 2 minutes. Registered user, so everything is the same. So things will change, but I don't think now is a particular moment for a discrete step. I mean, you were a PBX user yesterday. You want to be a PBX user today or tomorrow, and you want to have an easy to understand, portable experience, and Teams lets you do it. And that's what we're facilitating. And yeah, it's crazy the demand for this easy and understandable experience.
They're hitting this market right as COVID-19 pandemic was spreading worldwide, and opening that up to service providers to now deliver Teams and dialing that. I'm curious what the story was in terms of how you founded the company, why Microsoft, and what specifically for somebody that's not using Teams today. What are things that it does that you think are game changing?
I think you're right. That Microsoft has sort of been, moving along at a much lower user base than they could have, they have achieved now. And what changed and what got me excited was in June of 2018, they announced direct routing. And so I mentioned in the last answer, direct routing is the SIP trunk. And prior to that, Microsoft had been taking more or less a go-it-alone approach. Like, you buy Microsoft for your communications and your PBX and everything, and it doesn't work that well, by the way, or you don't. And so with direct routing, what they said is, hey, we're building a platform here. It's Teams. You do lots of stuff in here. You can integrate apps. You can look at your files, documents, meetings, all these things. And also now calling is built in. It's really easy to activate. So they said, well, you can connect to SIP trunk I can do it in 2 minutes, literally, from nothing. It's our technology, and others have built that integration. And then there's the PBX. And so registering and integrating a PBX, or letting those PBX users use Teams as a soft phone in addition. So when they built direct routing, the native Microsoft ones is called calls. So when you click on calls, and if you have direct routing built, you get a dial pad, you get call history, you get sort of rudimentary soft phone built in there. So that was a big change. There used to be, I think, a lot of cross launches, where you click a button and it takes you to another application, and that doesn't work very well for mobile. It doesn't work very well anywhere. So they made it usable. They made calling usable natively in Teams, and they opened it up so every PBX manufacturer, every SIP trunk provider in the world could sell to that user base. What fires up most of the developer community around Microsoft Teams is the openness of the platform. So integrations only work because there's APIs and there's openness. And so Microsoft last year in beta was something called the Microsoft Graph API. And that's sort of it's a graph API. It's one URL that lets you access all the information in Office. So emails and phone stuff and files and contacts and calendar, but they're slowly exposing some of the APIs. So presence management is not exposed yet. That's a big deal. Some of the other phone features aren't exposed, and some are. So what I see is a much more integrated experience within Teams that's possible. I get crazy requests. I had a dentist's office yesterday in California who said, we want our SMSs and we want our transcriptions of we want our phone calls. And I was like, that sounds great. And that's a ton of work, and it's a ton of custom work. And we're not doing that today, but those things that are really cool customizations can be done a lot easier with open APIs and a common platform. So I think that dentist, he's going to be able to put that together himself in 5 years.
A lot of times innovation comes out of these challenging times, and it's going to be fascinating, I think, to watch what type of innovations come around enabling companies to adapt to this new reality.
If you're a service provider, you can build a PBX offering on Twilio. And if you're a company, you can build, if you're if you're into that kind of thing, you can do it today with the pieces. It takes a while for that dentist in Sacramento to be able to use it and to see it as an option. And it's like, he wants to be a dentist. He doesn't want to be a phone technician. You know, something like two-factor authentication, which was sort of cool 3 years ago, is just like painfully annoying now because I get so many of them because everyone's figured it out and it's a product, and it's you know, it's one of many products that we'll see coming out and getting wide adoption